Hey folks, I've got something completely different for you today. You can probably tell from the title of the video, Blues Harmonica Session Work, Raw Files. What does that mean? What am I going to do? Well, I'm actually not going to play any harmonica on screen. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a little introductory video, and then I'm going to play an 8-minute stretch of stuff, and then I'm going to come back in with a couple of final thoughts, and I've got a challenge for you, so you're going to want to listen closely. So here's the situation. You know, one thing that professional blues harmonica players do, one thing that, and I call myself a semi-pro, I'm not a full-timer. There are a number of full-timers out there. That's not me, but I have made my living at various points, predominantly from blues harmonica. I've been doing this for 45 years, so we'll call me a pro for the sake of the moment. So one thing that we do at some point in our career, some people do it like Rob Paparozzi has been doing it forever, is session work. Somebody calls and says, hey, I've got a blues track, like Rich Russman emails and says, I've got a blues track and I think it would be good with some harp on it. Can you do that? And I have done a number of sessions through the years. In the old days, you'd go down to some recording studio when I was back in New York, and the producer would play you the track, and you'd hear it there in the studio for the first time. Normally, nobody emailed stuff back then. It was they weren't sending it to you in the mail. So you'd go in, you'd hear something, and you'd have to come up with a part. Over the years, that sort of changed, and these days, the way things work is that somebody usually sends you a track, if you agree to do the session, and says, I think it could use some harp. What do you think? And usually I hear it and I go, yeah, I think that works for me. Sometimes, occasionally I go, I'm not the right guy for this, and I always will refer the work. Again, since I'm not a full-timer, I can afford to not do the marginal sessions where I'm really not the best guy and I know that, but they don't know that. If I know somebody who's really better, in this case it was a little bit different. And I had a session like this once, actually. A professor of law up at Northeastern University in Boston. Margaret Burnham was her name. So this is like what the prelude to this. Margaret Burnham was actually an attorney, a black attorney who represented Angela Davis, the Black Power woman back in the 60s. When she was young, she represented Angela Davis. Well, now she's doing a project at the Boston University School of Law, or Northeastern University School of Law, and it's kind of a reparative justice project. She has a bunch of law students who are researching cold cases in the South in which basically racial violence was done to a black person, and the family has lived with this knowledge. Basically, and justice was never done. And at one point, I got an email from her, Margaret Burnham, saying, I read your book, seems like murder here, but I know you're a harmonica player, and I'm thinking that we're doing this project where some people will be sort of telling the stories of what happened to their uncle or their father or their grandfather on screen. We need harmonica. And I thought that's about the heaviest session work that any player could get, especially if you're a white guy trying to feel what's going on screen and play harmonica in a sort of properly, mournful way, deep blues. That was sort of the way I went into that project. I'll link the video that resulted from that, because that was sort of the model that I had. In other words, somebody was not giving me a guitar track and saying, dude, can you play some harmonica with this? It was a much deeper assignment, one that I took with trepidation, but you do your best, and I felt good about what came out. I think they felt good about what came out. So that's the prelude to this. I got a friend, happens to be a white guy, I'll just say that. He also speaks fluent Wolof. He spent some time in Senegal. I won't name him here because he's working on this project, but anyway, he emailed me. He's a fantastic scholar and loves music, and again, he speaks fluent Wolof. We were together in Senegal for a long weekend, and he freaked all the street vendors out, because when somebody spits it back at you in your own language, you're not used to the Anglo kind of talking that way. Anyway, so he's a knowledgeable, deeply knowledgeable guy about Southern and Black Southern and global South stuff. And he said, I'm doing this project. He was doing a project actually on Black Mexicans, I think it was, like Afro-Mexicans. It was fascinating stuff. And most people don't realize that there's an Afro-Mexican thing. So this is a thing on Louisiana, and it's going to involve mostly black folks, mostly in graveyards, in Louisiana. So of course I thought back to that earlier thing, this sort of mournful, but I said, give me some more cues, like give me some words that'll tell me what you're looking for. Because he said, I had volunteered, I said I'd help him. And he said, well, I need give me a couple of minutes worth of music. I ended up giving him more than 8 minutes worth of music, and that's what I'm going to play for you, is that the raw files that I sent to him, which he loved. He said, we're going to definitely use some of this stuff. I wanted to give him more than was required. But think about this assignment. You're a harmonica player. It's going to be black folks in graveyards. There's going to be some mournfulness. He was very clear. It's going to be, some of it's going to be that, but some of it, the Louisiana tradition is, you know, the second line on the way home from the graveyard. The New Orleans tradition is up-tempo. So I thought, I want a range of emotions. And he said, basically, it's going to be a range of emotions. This, blues, basically, he said. What kind of a, you know, so what do you do? What do you do? That's your assignment. If you're a professional, eventually this kind of assignment's going to come along. What do you do? So this is what I did. And then I'm going to play it. I'm going to play you the 8 minutes, and then I'm going to talk a little bit. I'm going to debrief, and I'm going to tell you what key. So here's the challenge. I ended up coming up with 7 cues. I used GarageBand. I used a Yeti Blue mic. One of the reasons I'm sharing this is because I really like the sound that Yeti Blue into GarageBand with some compression and with a little bit of reverb, which I did by putting the track into the voice mode, and then like natural voice. It just gave some deep, soft reverb. Not a lot, but just enough to really sweeten the sound, as you're going to hear. And it was unamplified, so it's just acoustic harp. Think about what you'd want in a graveyard. It would have to be kind of moody. So I did a total of 7 cues. My challenge, and I separated them in GarageBand, and then fused them all into one thing that I could send him. So there's this discrete kind of pause between each thing. Again, this was just a run-through. He did not give me the photos that this is going to be accompanying, but there may be video, but it's mostly going to be like photos. So what I want you to do is this will be a test for you, apart from just listening. Maybe you go back through it a second time. What key harps did I use? I'm looking 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 cues. I used 6 different harp keys. C was one of the keys. I used that on 1. And 2 of the cues are done on the same key harp. There's actually 2 consecutive cues are done on the same key harp. See if you can figure that out. Maybe that's all I should say. One more thing. Well, no, that's all I'm going to say for now. And then I'll come back at you when this is over. So I hope you enjoy these. I'll just say that none of them they're all my creations. In some cases, they were things I'd never played before. I'll say one more thing about them. Is that I tried to find, I didn't want things to be completely just what I'd call free, which is to say, no underlying rhythm. But I also felt that it would be wrong to have the cues be sort of locked into a rhythm. So some of them are more locked in than others, but most of them do something that's quite intentional, and I want you to listen for this, which is sometimes they begin on a groove and then they retard, they slow down. Sometimes they start slow and then find a groove, almost like somebody trying out a dance step, trying to orient themselves. The way I thought about this is sort of trying to orient themselves in musical terms towards whatever emergent reality is there in the graveyard. It might be that they're suddenly feeling something and they're inspired. So that was I don't usually get this kind of woo, kind of misty, impressionistic, but sometimes when you're a musician, that's exactly where you have to be. And I think you'll agree that some cool things came up. All of them are my own compositions. There's a few, and I'll talk about them. I can't even remember all of them. So, without any further ado, here are those 7 raw file cues. So, quite a load to dump into somebody's inbox. What did you just hear? What was that? Well, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm wondering if you managed to guess the keys. And so let me go through. I listened to them just before doing this video. So let me give you the keys. So the first one, I started off on G, key of G harp. So everything was cross harp. There was no third position, no first position, just cross harp. Key of G, G harp in the key of D. I picked the G because it's the lowest conventional harp. I don't play the super low, and the G is one I don't play very often, but I thought it would be maybe the most mournful in some ways. The lower harps they don't yelp, they groan in a sense. So that's number one, was that. Number two, I felt like I wanted something a little more majory sounding. So that was number two. And by the way, a few of the clips I did small edits, but by and large they mostly are as I played them straight through. So the second one was a B flat harp in the key of F, so raised the key a bit and a little happier. Then the third one, an A harp, and there, if I'm remembering correctly, I did much more of a Sonny Terry kind of, I wanted that kind of chugging. This is a C harp. Now there's a little thing there that caught your ear. It's something I'll show you at some point down the line. But the A harp is one that I like for that train song chugging kind of in and out thing. The fourth cue was on an E flat harp. And there, again, I just got the C, but what I did was I actually did the head for Every Day I Have the Blues, the version that I recorded on Kick and Stomp. This is a C harp, but I did it on an E flat, so a high harp, the highest harp that I used. And I love the sound. Now, sometimes you want to be inspired by the sound. I'm not being a narcissist to say that I want to love the sound that I create. Usually I'm surprised. Sometimes I'm surprised in a bad way. In this case, I felt like there was something being revealed by the Yeti Blue mic, and especially with a little bit of compression, mastering kind of magic, and a little bit of reverb. And it felt like I had much more. It felt like I had much more control than I thought I would have. You could sort of hear every note, but it was clear. Notice how important, if you go back and listen, notice how in all these cuts, but especially on that high one, the vibrato is so important. The vibrato. I'll hit a note clean and then I'll vibrato it, more like a horn player. That's really the way I think about that. And by the way, there weren't too many clams, too many sort of straight up errors. But the very beginning of the first cue, if you go back and listen to that cue that I did in the G harp, the opening little thing was suboptimal. It was the very first thing I played, and I had basically no warm-up. I just kind of did. this, because I wasn't thinking it would be final take, you know. I didn't think I would share it with you guys. So anyway, I'm a perfectionist, and in an ideal world I would redo that cue. But anyway, so G, B flat, A, E flat. Then I went to C, and I did, so here I actually have the right key harp, and I did a version of John Henry that's very much like the version that Nat Riddles and Larry Johnson do on a particular record that I have. I always love. And I'm not warmed up at all. So someday I need to show you that version of John Henry if I haven't already done that, but that's what I was thinking of there. So that's probably the closest to me doing, kind of covering a song, a standard folk song. And then we got the two cues that are in the same key harp, and I wonder if you had a chance to figure out what they were. The last two cues were basically the versions of the same thing. I did something, and then I sort of repeated it in a slightly different way because I liked it so much, and it was totally improvised. What did I do? So one thing I would say, that last cue and several of the other songs, I think the first one, are in a 16-bar blues, what we call a kind of gospel blues. Poor Boy, the song Poor Boy is 16 bars. My Babe is 16 bars. It's a church progression. Point is, it's not a 12-bar blues. Now, the Q4, the one on the E-flat harp, that was definitely a 12-bar blues. Most of them, though, were not. Why was that? Well, again, remember what the assignment was. These are tracks designed to accompany black folks in Louisiana graveyards thinking about what? But thinking about death, thinking about loss, but also thinking about finding hope, finding a future, finding resilience. So if you were to go back and listen to all the cues, I think they all fit within, like, roughly within the range of emotions that one might expect to dramatize with the help of photographs of that sort, right? That's sort of the way I was thinking about it. Anyway, we're done for now, but these are my raw files. I will, of course, when the project comes to a conclusion, I will, of course, link it and let you guys know about it. But I hope that was interesting, and maybe I'll do some more kind of session work stuff. Maybe I'll find some session I did. Maybe Rich Russman, that would be interesting. See if he'll let me do that, and share it with you. Okay, next time down the road.